All right, what's up, everybody? It's late night Keefe, almost 1 a.m. Pacific here in California. How you doing? This is the Weekly Ritual, Ghost Cult's weekly rock and metal news show. Why did I say weekly twice? I have no idea. Still trying to get all the devices to go on. I am in my new home of a week or so, and it's been pretty amazing. Week and a half, actually, maybe. And I get married in 1 week, and uh, 13 hours. I'll be married by then, probably. Or almost married. Holy cow. I'm still trying to get the rhythm of everything. I'm still trying to unpack my stuff. Watch this space you're watching if you're watching and not listening on our podcast, or if you're watching. The set is coming together slowly. Um, Enjoy the cat pillow over my shoulder. But yeah, we're here doing the rock and metal news. My love is here, the love of my life, Melissa. How are you, babe? It's late now. I'm sorry I'm going late live so late. Hopefully, going forward, I'll be able to hit a time. Next week, we're going to do a special day and time. But after next week, after my wedding is over, and things get back to normal and people go home from coming in from all corners of the globe, then I will probably try to hit a weekly every week, same time, same bat channel. I will bring back the other live streams. Maybe I'll get one in next week. I don't know. We have a lot going on to do in just a few more days. But anyway, I'm here to do the thing, bring you all the rock and metal news you may have missed. I'll do the show update at some point soon. As I always say, this is, hey, Austin Walker, what's up? Good to see you. This is your show, too, so feel free to ask questions, anything you'd like to talk about in the world of rock and metal. I'm game. That's what I do. That's what we do. For almost 15 years, Ghost Cult has been your 24/7, 365 source for rock and metal news, album reviews, concerts, and festival coverage all over the world, and so much more. And we have a lot to get through because last week was the first show after a bit of a layoff, and now we're back. So, sort of not quite a layoff, but just kind of a couple of shorties. So the last week was longer, and this week is a little longer, but I'm going to try to get it done at a reasonable hour. I have a whole day of stuff to do tomorrow. Also, later today, Planet X is here. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Austin. If you're new here, like and subscribe. It helps us out. I'll talk about what YouTube is doing to us with the algorithm a little bit. Not quite a whole complaint, but a little bitty complaint. And as usual, if you're watching, the best experience for this is Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, of course, YouTube, where we do the majority of our stuff, but also we like to hang out on TikTok. So yeah, we're just hanging out here. Again, feel free to jump in and ask questions and comment. I live for this stuff. We start every week with the announcements, and we've been through the ringer lately. We're still bringing awareness to the passing of Shaun Glass, formerly of Soil, Broken Hope. His band Repentance is actually about to put out a new record. Shaun suffered a stroke in early June and then passed away a week and a half ago. There's a GoFundMe on for support for his wife and child. That link is in our description or in our link tree. Also, this was a tough one. I didn't quite. You never. It's never a good time for these things, but we just do see sort of a certain generation, 25, 30-year-olds, careers in metal, and then people are passing away. What's up, Matthew Staggs? Thanks for watching. And H $. Roger Boggy Svensson, formerly B-War of Marduk, passed away. I know Marduk is in some corners a controversial band, but a great Norwegian black metal band, black and death metal, black metal. And they posted a comment on their social media that says, a life eternal will see you in the next one, translated loosely and poorly to English. I'm going to pop open my Liquid Death. Sparky Midnight, what up, what up? DPG, Dave Mustaine might be here. I don't know if that's really him. Well, I don't play music on here, Dave Mustaine, especially on TikTok. But if you, yes, I know the band and I know the song. I love Death. We've got We had some death news on last week. I don't know if you're aware of the band Left to Die, featuring kind of an all-star band of metal people and former Death associates and members are doing the Mantis demos over as a brand new album today, but re-recording the Mantis demos, relearned and re-recorded. That's coming out soon on Relapse Records, and we'll have an interview about that. I'm gonna have a Liquid Death, Severed Line. Cheers. Liquid Death, there's still time to sponsor my wedding if you want to. I'm game if you're game. We were an early affiliate partner of Liquid Death, and then today in the store I found this Liquid Death dust, which I've never actually had. This is Buried Alive Cherry Obituary, which I do love, Buried Alive, and Squeezed to Death, which I wasn't crazy about unless it's ice cold. So I'm not going to do one today on the show, but I am going to do one. Oh, and look at this cool back of this box. How sick is that? That's really cool. Liquid Death, man. Just my favorite. As a marketer, as a person that's worked a lot in metal and marketing, you know, always talking about death metal, bro. So check that out. Left to Die. They have a logo that looks like the Death logo. They've done a bunch of tours where they did whole, there's a lot of death activity out there. I know Chuck Schuldiner passing was brutal. I don't know if you saw the Into the Void documentary series last year, which had the episode on him. Was just, he could have been saved from his brain tumor if he had health insurance. That shit is crazy. Just crazy. But anyway, I digress. So rest in peace, B. War of Marduk. There's a picture of him in the Marduk face paint and stuff. Bonnie Tyler, man, rock legend. I know that people only know her big hit singles, I Need a Hero and Total Eclipse of the Heart. They only know those songs, but she actually had quite a good career of solid rock albums in the 80s. She was kind of a protege of Meatloaf and Meatloaf's producer, Jim Steinman, who wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart. Meatloaf is the other voice on that song, by the way. They never really advertised him as a guest feature, but rest in power, Bonnie Tyler. Rough times. This one was interesting too. I didn't know this. Lauren Bennett, who was a songwriter and a producer, she apparently wrote the party rock anthem for LMFO or LMAFO. Sorry, it's late at night, y'all. I just thought about talking about her. She seemed pretty young to pass away. Very sad. And then this one also, I have a classical music background despite being a metalhead dude. And I thought this one was Lemmy Pulliam, who rose to fame late in his life, the last 15 years, as one of the most celebrated male opera singers ever in America, considering the late start he got in his career. They were always picking on him because of his weight. As an overweight guy struggling with my health issues right now, with my high A1C and diabetes, and I just started Mounjaro. I'm very sensitive to bullying and how they picked on him, but he was beloved throughout the world, and he died at just 50 years old. So very sad. Today, on some other news, yesterday, the 9th, was the birth of Bon Scott. Here's a statue of Bon Scott. There's two of them in Australia. Here's one in Fremantle, where he's actually from. And, Bon was the original singer of AC/DC. One of my podcasts just did a whole run of the early AC/DC records, the first 5. And Bon was incredible, man. You just don't really even, and obviously people know the Back in Black and Brian, who's amazing and has been there for almost 50 years. But Bon was the original, and he's amazing. Dio's birthday would have been today, which is crazy. It's just a crazy confluence of things. Two people. If you are out there watching and you share a birthday with a famous rocker or metal personality, tell us who it is. I'd like to know. Birthdays this week, we celebrated the birth of the nicest guy in extreme metal, George Corpse Grinder Fisher, born on the 8th. Friend to all, lover of the claw game, donator of many plushies to children's hospitals. The guy's practically a saint. Frankie Bello of Anthrax, one of my childhood heroes, celebrated a birthday yesterday on the 9th. There's a great photo of him by our own Isabel Utz-Category. Great photo here of Anthrax, I think, at a festival. Celebrating a birthday this weekend is John Petrucci of Dream Theater. Richie Sambora, formerly of Bon Jovi. We had some Bon Jovi news last week that we talked about. I thought was pretty cool. It was the 1-year anniversary this past weekend of Back to the Beginning, the final ever concert for Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. Maybe the greatest concert of all time. We're going to debate about it forever. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the death of Ozzy, and it's really painful for me. I'm still not okay, and a lot of people are not okay. Anyhow, Back to the Beginning was great. Also, another Ozzy anniversary in 2007, he was given the very first bronze star on the Walk of Fame in Birmingham. So Birmingham was putting it down for Black Sabbath and Ozzy well before the farewell concert, with the Black Sabbath Bridge and the Black Sabbath Bench and these awards and things. I'd love to see Ozzy get a posthumous OBE, or Tony get an OBE. The Great Britain gives out kind of like the equivalent of the Presidential Medal of Honor and things like that. And there's different ones. Elton John is a Sir Elton John, Sir Paul McCartney. Brian May, I think he is not. Maybe he's a Sir. If he's not, he's certainly the next rung down. So I love to see Ozzy just for his, gifts to the world of entertainment and metal and rock. Album. Camera there for a second. There we go. Albums on this internet. Albums celebrating an anniversary this last week include Flotsam and Jetsam's classic Doomsday for the Deceiver, and the band jumped on social media and posted this fun photo of them with Jason Newsted, later of Metallica. Great album. I'm a huge Flotsam and Jetsam fan. New Flotsam and Jetsam coming soon. We have some more Flotsam and Jetsam news in a little bit. Also, the great Slayer, South of Heaven, one of my favorite Slayer records. Sometimes my favorite Slayer record. I know that's kind of blasphemy. I do love the grooves, and the half-tempo stuff is just brilliant. Better songwriting, smarter lyrics. I love Rain and Blood. I love Hello AIDS, but South of Heaven and Seasons of the Abyss I go back to all the time. Suicidal Tendencies' debut album was released in early July 1983 on Frontiers record, not the same Frontiers record label that's out now, but the LA Frontiers record label. See if anybody's hanging out on, going on here on the gram, but a lot of people chiming in and tuning in over on TikTok. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, please, follow, like, and subscribe. I'll follow you back when the show's over. I always do. Other albums celebrating a anniversary here. High School Me, love this. Under the Influence by Overkill. Interestingly, with the Overkill space in the middle, it's just one word, Overkill, named for the Motorhead song. Great band, great thrash metal history. Their third album. Already in '88, they had their third album, so pretty great. Metal Church's self-titled debut came out this week, 42 years ago. Oh, there's Overkill again. Death Angel, Frolic Through the Park. That's their second album. They've just been on the road celebrating Act 3 for 35 years. So I think they're coming up on a 40th anniversary for this one in 2 more years. Now we're at the halfway part of the show. If you're feeling tipsy, the best way to do that is to come on to YouTube and give us a super thanks, a super chat. Obviously, some of you are real ones and everydayers. Obviously not people that work with us, but I'm just going to drop these links in the tip menu, and you can do all the things. But yeah, we appreciate you for being here. Ghost Cult is a small business. We do make money from some sponsored affiliate links and things like that, and some advertising, but we are still like a DIY band, a small business. All right. That's our Cash App if you're curious. Boss Lady is here. Kev Mall is here. Miguel. Nice to see you here. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Kev, what up, Kev? How are you tonight, this morning? All right, time for the features. And usually what we do for features is we start talking about metal festivals. Let's do the thing. Just some announcements and features before we talk about festivals. We had our 1,000th podcast last week. unbelievable 1,000 podcasts. And we didn't really start honestly doing YouTube and podcasting hardcore until 2018. And then we doubled and tripled down during the pandemic with a lot of interviews and special things. There's a lot of cool stuff coming to the pod, some exclusive content on the pod, as well as our typical YouTube content, live streams, interviews with bands you care about, all that. New interview. Oh, I'm getting married. Sorry, I'm getting married this in a week. It's crazy. In just 1 week, we're getting married. This is my wonderful, amazing, beautiful, smart fiance. I'm still amazed at how I snagged this beautiful, great lady. I feel very lucky. And our wedding's going to be super fun. And then it'll be over. We did an album premiere for a brand new album by Boise, Idaho's, I hope I say this wrong, Alor Below, which is a Western theme, like the Old West, like your Paramount TV show, Old West people, like music that's psychedelic rock and heavy rock and doom, but based on the Old West. We streamed their whole new album this week out on Ripple Music, a label that I love. Caw, Melissa Caw, I say. Go check that out. We love Ripple Music. I got an interview on our YouTube and podcast with Todd of Ripple Music. If you love psychedelic rock, stoner, doom blues, all the things. Interview Paul Leary of Butthole Surfers. If you're watching this or watching this on the replay, go check out that interview for 2 reasons. 1, Paul rules. Thanks, Hoagie John. Tom Johnson, appreciate you. I appreciate it. I'm trying to matter. I appreciate you. Sometimes I feel like we don't make a dent. But if you're watching this, TikTokers, go over to YouTube and watch the Butthole Surfers video for 2 reasons. 1, Paul is a goddamn genius. He has produced tremendous albums, not just the Butthole Surfers records, which were game changers in punk rock and alternative rock, but also, produce records for Sublime, their big hit record, and things like that. So Paul's a tremendous artist. He went up against the record industry and they lost, and then they won again. And I'm going to tell you, YouTube is downgrading us because, Big John, thank you for shouting that out. They're downgrading us because of the name Butthole Surfers. They've downgraded the band for years. All the platforms are kind of dissing them. But we had a little interview clip go up on Instagram, and it did 3,000 views. So something is wrong, YouTube. Go check us out on YouTube. Like and subscribe if you like this video, if you like what we do. If you're interested in more stuff like this, let me know. We're building a community of loyal, underground metal fans. But so that interview is being shadow banned, kind of, and it sucks because it's really, really cool. It was really an honor. Another big interview this week was with the band Nunslaughter. So 1 foot in the past, another foot in the future. Nunslaughter's new album, Satanic Chaos Legions, is out now on Black to Black Records. And our own Will Cifer interviewed Dawn of the Dead. I met Dawn at Milwaukee Metal Fest. He was rad. Nunslaughter killed it. And the label is super high on this. Nunslaughter super. If you like bands like Midnight, or if you wish Motorhead was a death metal band, that's what Nunslaughter is. Check out that. Also, recent other interviews. If you're a huge metalhead, especially if you're into death metal, I interviewed David from Psychroptic. I interviewed Camden and Cruz of Seven Kingdoms, who just crowdfunded their whole new album successfully. We did an interview with L of Insight, where he was getting a tattoo, and we talked to his tattoo artist and himself, who is also a tattoo artist, all about tattooing and metal bands, and their new album, Savage New Times. Also, Devin Townsend. It was my great honor to interview Devin Townsend for the 4th or 5th time in 20 years. Amazing. And he really likes us, and we had a really thoughtful, great conversation about the new album, The Moth. Big John, Ghost Cult is your rock and metal news source. We are the DIY version of Loudwire, Blabbermouth, Metal Injection. We've been around for 15 years. I interview bands on my YouTube. Many people around the world cover music for us. We do about 400 to 600 album reviews every year. We cover metal festivals and concerts every week, basically. So that's what I'm on here doing. I'm doing my weekly rundown of all the rock and metal news. If you like rock and metal, follow and subscribe. I'll follow you back. If not, that's cool too. I'm good. I appreciate you for jumping in. More things. My other podcast that's not this show is the Glacially Musical Podcast, Beer, Metal, and Swearing. We drink craft beer. We talk about vinyl. And we've been on a little bit of a break for a few weeks. And we're in the middle of a series on Deicide, but we did a chaser episode that will go up tomorrow about vinyl collecting and like what is your ultimate vinyl album for your favorite bands. So that's kind of fun. Also, in addition to that, we do a lot of free promotion for bands. I don't know that like people know this, but we get asked all the time, like, yo, how do I get my band on Ghost Cult, or how do I get covered? We do a preview of all the rock and metal news every week. I'm going to run down the list a little later about what's coming out today for New Music Friday. We do a lot of stuff in our video interviews where we tag underground bands, people who have metal and rock related merch lines, .orgs that we care about, a metal store, a record store, whatever. We give shout outs to you. So if you like and subscribe, DM us a picture of your screenshot of you liking and subscribing, we will gladly promote your band. That's what we do. We've been doing that for a long time. And now it's actually the time for the news rundown. And now I'm going to talk about metal festivals. Let's talk some metal festival news. Iron Maiden is having their very first Ed Fest, the 50th anniversary celebration. This is kind of the trial run, the end of their summer tour before they kick off their North American tour. And it's today in the UK. So if you're in Europe, it's happening now. This is probably going to be what they end up doing in the future, like one weekend, or maybe they pop up in a few places and they don't do touring anymore. They just kind of do this big festival and convention. So it's Iron Maiden, the Darkness, the Who, the HU, Mongolian metal band, not Roger Daltrey, Airborne, the awesome Australian heavy rock band, and the Almighty, one of my favorite bands going back to high school with Ricky Warwick of Thin Lizzy and other bands. Tomorrow and Saturday, they have a Iron Maiden museum experience, live music, Eddie's Ultimate Dive Bar, Iron Maiden history, an affair with merchant vendors and everything. So pretty fucking killer. I wish I could go to this, but I'm getting married, so maybe next year. Sinister Sounds Fest is taking place at Neck of the Woods in San Francisco tonight, my former hometown. Incredible lineup. Year of the Cobra, Bongzilla, Phantom Hound, Doom Boys, Cattle Mass, just insane. Demon Smoke, Salem's Bend, Bloodhum, like tremendous. Neck of the Woods a little tight and hot in there, but like a tremendous festival for rock and metal. Very excited. Hordes X. Oh, nice, man. Nice, man. Yeah, I mean, the Who's great, man. Fantastic, man. Appreciate that. Is that San Antonio, Texas? Right on, brother. Hordes X is a festival put on by our own Paul McMillan in Europe, and they just announced a bunch of other bands. De Profundis is having a Scottish exclusive headline festival set, and they just added a bunch of new bands, which I'm really excited about. We'll be talking more about that soon. We'll be doing some interviews with them soon. Some of the bands on this lineup. Great South Bay Music Festival is coming up in late July at the Shorefront Park in Patchogue, New York. That's Long Island. Kind of a weird amalgam of different bands. The Used, Bayside, Cartel, and Koyo. Koyo fans are going to beat up some emo kids and then leave. Sublime, Common Kings, the Reese Brothers, and some more. Saturday is Government Mule, Bruce Hornsby and the Noisemakers, Sierra Hall and Lamp. And then Sunday is My Morning Jacket, Little Feet, still doing it. And then a Bob Weir celebration and more. That kind of looks like a whole mishmash of things. Wacken 2026 is coming up at the end of the month. The granddaddy of them all, almost the most legendary metal festival in the world. Someday, perhaps I will go. Sabaton, Def Leppard, Powerwolf, and Judas Priest are your headliners. In Flames, Sabotage, Arch Enemy, Lamb of God, Emperor, Saxon, Airborne, Sepultura, Europe, Black Label Society, and just much, much more. Triptychon, Yngwie Malmsteen, Danko Jones, Turbo Negro. Not sure who's in Turbo Negro now. The Gathering, Paradise Lost. Got some Gathering news coming up soon. Nevermore, I believe, is going to make their another appearance out there. Incarceration Fest is coming up next weekend in Ohio at Ohio State Reformatory. That is the prison from Shawshank Redemption. You heard right. Disturbed, Bad Omens, and Limp Bizkit are your headliners. Papa Roach, Cypress Hill, Hollywood Undead, Starset, Tech Nine, Gojira, The Used, Sleeping with Sirens, Poppy, Machine Head, Data Remember, Motionless and White, Ice Nine Kills, Fit for a King, and more. Plus a whole tattoo festival and haunted prison tours. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bloodstock Open Air is coming up in August. We have been confirmed to be covering that, I believe, for like the 15th year in a row or 14th year in a row in our history. Saxon, Lamb of God, Slaughter to Prevail, and Judas Priest are your headliners. What a killer festival. We'll be previewing this much more coming up closer to the event, but we are now going to cover it once again. Riot Fest, we talked about, hoping to cover that again. Looks pretty killer. RPM Fest got announced last week, so we're just going to bump it up here again, and then we'll talk about that festival more as we get there. Thank you, Shannon Bream, for following. Lane, if you follow us, we'll follow you. That's how it works, buddy. If you're following us, I'll follow you back. Mile High Power Fest for you sort of progressive rock and metal nerds has been canceled due to an illness with the promoter who felt like he couldn't carry out the event without, compromising it because he was unwell. And that was to feature Dread Crew of Oddwood, Lady Beast, Anubis, the Homes in Ice Giant, Love Y'all, and many, many more. That's canceled, and they recommended you go follow similar festivals, Mad with Power and Prog Power and things like that. Capital Punishment Festival is coming to Ottawa, Canada in late November, and they have put out a call for artists and sponsors and partners. Already some festivals have been announced for next year. We've been talking about Roadburn here at Ghost Cult, which we cover every year, and we just posted our stuff. And so all your European festivals that have already happened, like Hellfest and Download, are starting to do early bird sales. Here's Rock Imperium Festival in 2027. Halloween, Children of Bodom. Maybe I'll do a live stream about this next week. I don't know how I feel about Children of Bodom coming back without Alexi. It seems odd. I don't know if it's being done with consent of the band, the family, but it's basically the rest of the band and Sammy from Lost Society, who I have interviewed. So at least they're keeping it finished. But Mayhem, Venom, Eric Grunwell, formerly of Skid Row, and many, many more to come. Very interesting. Maybe I will do a Bodom themed episode and talk about other bands that don't have necessarily original members anymore. Let's welcome to my face. My beard is looking amazing, getting ready for this wedding. I'll talk more about my beard stuff in just a minute. Tour dates. Metallica just ended their M72 tour after 3.5 years. Pretty interesting stuff. They're going to take a break now. Maybe they're going to work on new music. I don't know. But they start up at the Sphere in about 12 weeks, less than 12 weeks at the Sphere in Las Vegas for the Life Burns Faster residency that will run through through April. And then we'll see what happens with Metallica after that. This is fucking killer. So every year at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, there is a Ramones, tribute event set up by Linda Ramone, Johnny Ramone's wife. Johnny is passed. They're all passed except CJ and Marky now. And this is a blowout. They're going to do a 50th anniversary for the 50th anniversary of the Ramones. And this is pretty incredible. It's going to be hosted by John Travolta, who's apparently a huge punk fan. I know he's like almost synonymous with disco, right? And the 70s and Staying Alive and Saturday Night Fever, and then also obviously Pulp Fiction, which he danced incredibly in. But this is the concert and double feature screening. Cretin Family is going to be a super group covering Ramones songs. Tim Armstrong of Rancid, Billy Joe of Green Day, Travis Barker of Blink-182, and CJ Ramone. Holy cow. There will also be a screening of Carrie, which obviously John Travolta was in, and I'm a huge fan of. It was one of my favorite Stephen King anything beside The Shining. 50th anniversary deluxe screening, and also Propeller one-way night coach. DJ special guest DJ Shepard Ferry, who I believe will do some artwork for this also. Killer, killer, killer. I would love to go to that also. That's in late August, just announced. Hatebreed is continuing on the Summer Slaughter Tour. Once again, you got to give it up to Jamie Josta of Hatebreed. They announced a new album. Milwaukee Metal Festival's Baller. Stay tuned for my coverage of that on Monday. And yeah, they're just Summer Slaughter Tour is incredible. Incantation, Devourment, bunch of different bands. Amazing. Stabbing Westward. We live in a really weird and perilous time for touring right now, and so Stabbing Westward has announced the 30th anniversary of the Wither, Blister, Burn, and Peel album. They just announced some tour dates a few days ago, less than a week ago, already added a few more dates by demand, and they're going out with 16 Volt, who also has an album anniversary, interestingly enough. Stabbing Westward, one of my favorite bands. Their last album was 7 years ago, Chasing Ghosts. It was incredible. Their comeback record, first album in almost 20 years. And yeah, it's really, if they're going to markets that do well for them, they're going to continue to tour. But, if people don't come to the shows, there will be no touring. You're going to see this thematically pop up again and again. All right. Anyway, Stabbing Westward, big fan here. Thrill House Records is my favorite DIY record store in all of San Francisco. My best friend is coming in for my wedding. I hope to take him to it. They're doing basically basement shows in their little venue. In the back of the record store, they have bands playing this weekend, so that's killer. On Sunday, they do kind of matinees. Anneka van Giesbergen, recent interviewee on my podcast and YouTube channel. Here on YouTube, Anneka's doing some solo free shows in the Netherlands, where she's going to do some retrospective storyteller type stuff and a record signing. Her new album, Le Mort, is out now, part of a 3 EP series. La Vie, Le Mort, and L'Amour. Those are all coming soon as a full album. But the first two are out already. Shadows Fall is doing a anniversary show in Western Massachusetts in another week. Looks pretty killer. And they're doing the VIPs and signings and hangs and all that. Love. Shadows Fall, Unearthed, and Within the Ruins. If you love Massachusetts bands, this show is for you, dog. Necrogoblicon has announced more dates of their 20th anniversary tour with Rivers of Nihil and other bands. That looks fun. I know John Goblicon is a new columnist over at Metal Sucks. I definitely went on Metal Sucks today, and I did not recognize the site from what it used to be. So there are a lot of changes afoot with my fellow music journalist companies and the company we keep. But changes afoot. Something is afoot at the Circle K. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, John Goblicon is the only name over there I recognize. I don't know who else is over there that's been there for a while. Hard to say. Don't know. All right. Elder has announced, Australians, get ready for a whole bunch of Australian stuff announced for next year and later this year. Elder has announced finally coming back to Australia. Very killer, very killer. New Elder album is incredible. We were trying to get an interview with the band, but it was just really too tough to get through with the times didn't align, unfortunately. And but I am hoping to see them on tour. Love the new album. Carcass and Brujeria have announced some additional tour dates together. Pretty killer. I'm not quite sure who's in Brujeria after the death last summer of Pinche Peach and Juan Brujo. Don't do ghost hunting, but we are Ghost Cult Magazine, a rock and metal website, formerly a zine, YouTube and podcast series. But I did once party with the Ghost Adventurers TV show hosts in Boston. I can't quite speak of what was going on in that hotel room at the top of the Le Meridian Hotel in Cambridge, Mass. But a lot of drugs were consumed, not by me, but other people. Anywho, I hope you enjoy that story. Electric Callboy has added more dates to the Tanzanite World Tour. Their new album's coming out in August. Menzos, the Menzingers, one of the best pop punk bands out there from Pennsylvania, has announced the rest of their tour, which conversely means Hot Water Music has announced the rest of their tour dates for the rest of this year. I'm a big Hot Water Music and Chuck Reagan fan. I don't know if you are. Spine Shank and Head PE have announced more European tour dates. So things are so complicated right now in the touring world. You're seeing a lot of bands cancel tours. For one, things are so tenuous and thin, strung out so thin to be able to go on tour right now. If bands get along together, tours do well, you will see them rebook a tour together, even if they hit the same places again, if they feel like they're going to do well, because it's that kind of environment right now. So Spineshank and Head P just did a whole co-headline run together, and now they're together on another tour, which I think is cool. I love me some Spineshank, and I've enjoyed some Head PE at Planet Earth. I have a really cool interview with Jared. Boston Manners announced the 10-year anniversary of the Be Nothing album and tour with some cool openers. That's fun. Poppy has kicked off their headline tour. Their album from earlier this year was a banger. I enjoyed it a lot. I'll go be revisiting her album as we get closer to the end of the year, but I really enjoyed it. Hot Mulligan announced some more tour dates. They put out a new album recently. This looks really cool. I wasn't sure if this is really a festival or a one-off show. It's not really a festival. It's a one-off celebratory concert. The Alchemy Cider Company in Portland, Oregon is celebrating 1 year in business. And so Helms Ali and Lord Dying are co-headlining together, which I thought was fresh. Love both those bands. King Parrot, more down under. They have announced some hometown shows in New Zealand and Australia, as well as a return to Europe later in the year. Chelsea Wolfe has been putting out new music and announced a huge tour. Pretty cool with A. Williams opening. A. Williams has a new album coming out on Raining Phoenix Music after her just had a new album last year. So she's being prolific. I like it. Once again, next week and the week after is San Diego Comic-Con. And so Transformers the movie is having the Knights of Unicron Apology Tour featuring the Transformers band, Cold Slither, and Gem and the Holograms. Holy shit. Tomahawk and Melvins kick off their tour in a few weeks. Gravehuffer has got kind of a one-off show coming up at the end of the month. That looks pretty cool. I think Nick Cameron of Glacially Musical is going to go to that. Steve Von Till, I mentioned, has some upcoming tour dates. Ooh, trigger finger itchy. Danny Elfman announced a fall headline tour. We covered Danny at Sick New World. He's got kind of a semi-new backing band of all-star people. Fun and good on Danny. We told you last week about Ricky Rackman's current tour. He gave an update with some show availability and ticket availability. Go check out his One Foot in the Gutter tour. Nanny is here. Katrina's here. What up, what up, what up? Also, Napalm Death has announced additional dates. These are the latest dates according to social media. Black Tusk, speaking of cancellations, has forced to cancel their entire upcoming tour with Hoaxed. We have been promoting this for quite a while. Big Black Tusk fan. They just having too many problems with members in their band and illnesses and things. They had some fill-in players who were going to step in, and even they had trouble, so they just decided to circle the wagons, maybe return to touring next summer, and then start working on new music. So they're on maybe a little bit of a break. I don't want to quite say a hiatus, but a break. That's a bummer. Madball has canceled their Mexico and Latin American tour dates. And that's the halfway point in the show at a somewhat manageable 40 minutes. That's our tip menu one more time. If you're feeling tipsy, hook us up. Again, I have this amazing, incredible looking beard thanks to Fable Beard and their great products for men. They have a line called Fable Beauty for non-men. And if you hit our link in the description, you will get $10 off your next order. We're also part of the Lamb Goat Network. Lamb Goat's the much meaner, evil version of Ghost Cult. Don't read the comments unless you got a strong stomach. Lamb Goat. Also, shout out to Craig Caruso of Caruso Apps for being our ride or die web developer, and also StreamYard, which you're watching this unless you're on TikTok. So thank you, StreamYard. All right, now it's time for the rest of the show. Let's do the news. Here's what's gone on this week in rock and metal. Man, the feel-good story of the summer is really St. Vitus Bar reopening in Brooklyn. I used to live in Brooklyn. I'm from New York City originally, in case you're new here. And St. Vitus Bar was a near and dear place to me. Is really like the mecca of rock and metal since CBGB's closed. They were shut down over 2 years ago on a Friday night during a show, and the Department of Buildings in New York City revoked their license. They went dark. It looked like they were never going to come back. I will tell you from personal knowledge, inside knowledge, it's very difficult to get a license back under the same name for the same owners if you've ever been shuttered by New York City. And they did it. They reopened in the old venue Brooklyn made that is now closed. They are going to come back fall 2026. So shows, events, things. When I go back to New York, I plan to stop by. I'm super stoked. And that's the location. It'll be in Bushwick, where I used to live, not too far from where I used to live in Bushwick. A memorial popped up at the intersection where Brent Hines died almost a year ago of Mastodon. He was killed riding his motorcycle. He had a very acrimonious split from the band, as you know, but this memorial was put up, and we're coming up on 1 year, as I said, for Ozzy. We're coming up on 1 year for Brent. I'm not ready. And then Mastodon put out kind of a tribute video to Brent where they talked openly about the split and the fracture with him and how he didn't want to come back and make this new album with them. I think this is their way of processing it. It's hard. He's not here to defend himself. We don't know if they ever would have got back together. It certainly can't happen now. He said some very mean things about them. They said some mean things about him, just like anything with family or friends or brothers. People grow apart. They're not feeling it anymore. Maybe he moved in a new direction, wanted to do different music without them. So that's their video. It's a tough watch. I started to watch it and I had to turn it off. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube and TikTok especially. Thanks. Man, this makes me sad. Paul Barker, one of the greatest drummers of all time, from Dimmu Borgir and Cradle of Filth, has been having many years in a row of health issues, originally related to kidney failure. And now he revealed in a new interview this week that he is having a lot of additional health issues that almost could have killed him. He has had so many brushes with death. It's crazy. He can't ever tour or play drums ever again, probably. But I just would love to see him get kind of his quality of life back. I'm very sad for him. And it really got taken away from him, and he had to come to terms with how hard that is, that he can't play anymore or tour anymore. Really tough. Anthrax just dropped a brand new song right before we went live, so I had to talk about it. Edge of Perfection is out now on streaming. There's a video on YouTube. I am so excited for their new album coming in September. Yep. All right, random questioner. I don't even have an answer for that, pal. But thanks. So yeah, a new Anthrax song if you're excited about it. I am. A new book coming out about Metallica from Martin Popoff, is one of the deans of music coverage. He's got a new book coming out. Metallica also donated $100,000 to Venezuelan earthquake relief because they put their money where their mouth is. If you're going to make as much money as Metallica, you might be able to, do some good with that money. Tari B of My Ruin and Manhole and Tora Satana popped up on social media this week. Kind of akin to when Paul Ryan, the very famous libertarian politician, was like, my favorite band is Rage Against the Machine, and I work out to them and I love them. And people are like, bro, you're the machine they're raging against. What the fuck is wrong with you? You can like them, but do you not listen to the words? So some fan tried to call out Tara B and was like, hey, if you stop talking about politics. You might keep some of your fans. And she was like, where the fuck have you been for the last 35 fucking years? Wild. Shit is wild, bro. People don't pay attention. They are dense. Mayor James Keenan has launched a new line of spirits, whiskey, vodka, and gin, and 2 kinds of whiskey, technically. I know he just had some legal problems with his other spirits brand, but his wine brand is flourishing, and it's very hard to grow wine in Arizona, and he managed to do it. But now he's going into other spirits. So check out Merkin Vineyard's spirits line. Once again, Cherry Moon Zombie's debut single, I Love My Robot, and music video is coming out in a few weeks at the Morrison Gallery in LA, directed by Rob Zombie, with art by Rob Zombie, and an appearance by Rob Zombie. I don't know how good this music will be, but cool. Flotsam and Jetsam, more Flotsam and Jetsam news. I'm so excited to talk about one of my favorite bands. We just talked about Doomsday the Deceiver, had an anniversary over the 4th of July. No Place for Disgrace, which they re-recorded as a full band, is getting a new reissue on vinyl from Brutal Planet Records, who's doing a lot of stuff. We have another one coming up with them in a minute. This is super interesting. Tim McMurtry and Billy Milano bumped into each other at a show at Dingbats in New Jersey. They were both formerly in MOD and some other bands, and they had a very acrimonious split. As you know, Billy is super conservative and very salty about his career in music, constantly dogging Scott and Charlie from Anthrax and SOD, but they kind of squashed their beef, and Billy apologized to Tim for threats against his family or some shit, and somebody jumped in the comments and was like, who the fuck are you, Tim? And he was like, I'm a famous hardcore musician. Who are you? Dumb fucks. The internet is full of dumb people. So Neurosis has launched a brand new mailing list. If you are a big fan of Neurosis, some of you might be here because of us, because you saw our video with Neurosis that has like 6,000, 7,000 views on YouTube and podcasts. They launched a mailing list. They're going to play at Fire in the Mountains in a couple of weeks, and then probably announce a tour. So that's probably what that mailing list is about. And they are also going to probably drop additional represses of their classic albums now that they're a reactivated band. So I'm very excited for more Neurosis stuff. Gabe, you seem like a herb. I can't. I'm here trying to do my show, and you're here trying to distract me. So I don't know what to say. But bye. Bye-bye. Dumbass. I don't know, man. I'm good. Anyway, back to my show. Bill Ward of Black Sabbath posted a picture of him in a wheelchair this week. And the internet, as we continue, you see a theme here, the internet continues to run its fucking mouth and run rampant with, concerns and questions and queries and things. So Bill Ward was like, hey, listen, I've been using a wheelchair for a couple of years. I can still play drums. I can still walk. But like if I have to walk for long distances, like from one terminal to another in an airport, I get very weak and I have to sit. So I've just been using a wheelchair. A lot of you see me out and about. I'm going to start using a wheelchair more. Please don't worry about me. I'm okay. I'm mostly well. I'm just getting old, nearly 80. And, please don't get carried away. Along a similar line, Shane Embry has not been on tour with Napalm Death. A lot of people have been talking about that because he hasn't been on the tour. And he's been suffering from pancreatitis, which he talked about. He's still doing a lot of solo music, and he does hope to return to the stage with Napalm at some point. And he's been asking people to sign up for his mailing list, which you can check out at his socials. And he's giving away free cassettes, which is hella cool. Anyway, Amon Amarth released their very first acoustic song ever. I listened to it. It wasn't bad. I know they're trying to just do different things to keep themselves from, making the same music twice. They've never really had an intro. They've never really had an acoustic passage even in some of their music. Very little or very few. So very cool for them to try new things. We'll see. New Amon Amarth album news coming soon, I believe. Jay Weinberg, formerly of Slipknot and Suicidal Tendencies and Infectious Grooves, has been putting out a lot of solo music, and he's actually singing on his latest track, which I thought was really fun. He's also playing as the new drummer in Fuming Mouth, who has a brand new single out right now. So super cool for Jay. We're looking forward to Fuming Mouth soon. Kerry King took the stage last weekend at Summerfest, or Rockfest, sorry, Rockfest, Summerfest in Wisconsin. Megadeth had dropped out of that show a few months back because they were going to be in Europe this weekend. And Kerry King's solo band was the headliner for the Metal Day, and they played for the first time in 9 months. Kerry has gone back in the studio, has begun writing another album, which they believe they're going to be recording and putting out later this year or early next year. This is super cool. A Song of Hiawatha is a brand new documentary about Hiawatha Bailey, one of the most legendary underground punk artists of all time. People in this documentary include Iggy Pop, Patti Smith, Wayne Kramer, and countless others. A political activist, a punk rocker, just a tremendous thing. I'm really looking forward to this documentary coming out. It's from the same people who brought you American Hardcore, so I'm into it. Once again, pre-orders are on now for Electric Callboy's Tensnide album. It's coming out in August. Exhumer, classic thrash metal from Europe/America, has a new album coming out soon on Metal Blade Records. Chatpile has a new single out right now. Hoping to interview them again. You might be here because you saw our interview with Chatpile. Get like 15,000 views a year and a half ago on YouTube and podcasts. Really cool. Lifesick is a German death metal band. They have a new music coming out. Really cool. Thin Lizzy's debut album, the self-titled Thin Lizzy record. In America, it's like a car riding over a woman's hip and thigh, and it's this arty thing. They got a deluxe reissue that just came out today. Big Thin Lizzy fan. Their debut is not their best album, but if you really love the band, it's sort of essential to understand where they came from and where they went, and really the early lineup of Thin Lizzy doesn't get enough credit, especially guitarist Brian Bell. I love Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy. Accept is putting out their 50th anniversary album with a bunch of, guests and hitmakers. Bullet for My Valentine, Rex Brown are among some of the people on the new cover of Balls to the Wall. Really fun. It's super interesting kind of how much new music is getting announced now for the fall, and all these new kind of records and things that are coming out. I don't know if you're one of these people that there's a record label you love and you just buy everything they come out with. Devil Master's new album is coming out on Relapse Records. I'm pretty stoked for that. This picture is positively creepy. We're almost done here with the show. I need to go to bed. Sanctuary is another band with a classic album coming out on Brutal Planet Records. Prong has announced their self-titled new album coming out later in the year. I'm very pumped for that. All right, that's all the news. And now we're going to do our brand new segment, Ass Clown of the Week. Last week we told you about Corey Feldman being an ass clown. I love the movie Office Space. Maybe we should watch it soon, honeybee. If we have time. We don't really have time for anything right now. But several people are vying for the Ass Clown of the Week. Let's talk about Gene Simmons. I grew up loving Kiss. I have a Kiss patch on my battle vest from when I was 5 years old. I kept it mint for 50 years almost. And Gene and Paul, to a lesser extent, are very disappointing in general as people. But Gene was also a performer at that Summerfest this weekend in Wisconsin. And he said, if you don't like America, don't complain about it. You can go somewhere else, which is not American of him to say, because America was founded on the principle that the freedom of speech means you have the right to protest and complain. People protesting are not against America. People protesting are pro-America. They just don't like the America we have right now, which is half the country's prerogative. When another party was in power and they didn't like the president, they said all kinds of mean, horrible things about him. Their feelings, they didn't care about the feelings of anyone else. So like when your people are in power, you can't be a bitch about it. So honestly, Gene Simmons is old and confused and should really shut the fuck up and focus on the music, which he's pretty good at, making solo music and not original music, but like doing covers and Kiss songs and stuff. Since Kiss is kind of done for now, kind of have a big cup of shut the fuck up, Gene. Also, not Dave Mustaine is the ass clown of the week, but Megadeth, not in Wisconsin, but in Europe, in Portugal, which I've always wanted to go to, had a last minute cancellation of their headline festival date in Portugal. And the fans rioted, kind of throwing things and I get the disappointment. I never pick on fans. I will say that this generation of fans is very entitled. There's a lot of fan bases that are unhinged. Deftones and Sleep Token, I'm looking at you lately. Sleep Token for many years. Ghost fans, unwell. But, Dave Mustaine beat cancer. He's old. This is the retirement tour. This is the farewell tour, basically, the next few years. He's got a hand condition where he can't sometimes even play guitar at all. And he's just willing himself to do these final farewell shows for the next few years, following the new Megadeth record, self-titled, came out earlier this year, that I rather liked. So, I understand the disappointment. I paid to be here. Concert tickets are a fortune. Festival tickets are even more. And my favorite band that I was waiting all weekend to see canceled. I get the dismay. But, shit happens. And I understand that maybe there's no refunds in this thing. But for them to act a fool, because this guy is like literally held together with Dixie cups and yarn and toothpicks and glue. So just be kind. And, I never pick on the fans. And apparently Portugal has incredible metal fans, but kind of dial it back a little. And then, of course, last and never least, this one really fucking surprised me. So Charlie Crockett, who's a pretty famous country artist, apparently. I think there's one more after this, but Charlie Crockett had booked a tour with Twin Temple as the opening band. If you do not know who Twin Temple is, their tagline about their band is that they are satanic doo-wop. They've opened for Ghost. They tour with Danzig. They're fucking awesome. I have a whole bunch of their albums and merch. Their music's great. Metalheads love them. They do a satanic ritual at the beginning and the end of every show. And Charlie Crockett booked them to open a tour. And then some of their partners for the tour, promoters, venues, things like that, started complaining about Twin Temple, and Charlie Crockett kicked them off. Again, read the fucking room. Pay attention before you sign a contract. Like, you are an asshole. Why would you book this band in the first place if your partners are going to have problems with them based on religious grounds? What in the fuck is wrong with you? I don't know who Charlie Crockett is. I cannot name a Charlie Crockett song. I don't think I've ever heard a song willingly of his music, but what a fucking dick. And this kills Twin Temple's summer, and this was money and income they were looking forward to. So if you like this band, go check them out and buy some stuff from them. And here it is. Last and not least, we told you the story about Gorillaz last week, shortening Uncle S and the Deadbeats show at a festival because they wanted to go on at a certain time, and Uncle S and the Deadbeats had to cancel their show, like insisted that no other band be playing at the same time as them. I guarantee you the fans of Gorillaz are not the fans of Uncle S and the Deadbeats. And so Gorillaz have not answered back to this, which is also fucking insane. So I think Damon Albarn, who is from Pulp, is the problem, which sucks because I've always liked that band and I always liked him, but I guess he's a diva and a bitch. So that sucks. All right. Then I just had to kind of read this. I saw this Craigslist ad pop up in my feed, and I was like, man, I think the Crowbar has hit peak chubbiness. All fat guy lardcore band, Dover, I assume New Hampshire. I used to live in New England. Hi, I'm Jeff. I played in some hardcore bands in the late 90s and 2000s, but they were all pretentious and serious, and that's dumb. Lately, I've gotten the itch to play again, and for the last 15 years, I've been wanting to do an all fat guy hardcore band called Girth Crisis. Girth Crisis. All right. We will only write songs about food and being fat. I play all the instruments, but only have a bass right now. Come on, fellow fat guys, complete my lineup. M suffers from too much girth, as do I, as I am on Manjaro now. I have a high A1C and high blood pressure. I'm trying to fight my diabetes. But anyway, Lardcore. Why didn't I think of this? Girth Crisis. And then other people were commenting other fun names. All right. That is all the news. Let us quickly do the New Music Friday. Parts of June and July had tremendous. July has a lot of 5 weeks of new music coming out. We got a bunch of banger weeks to celebrate. Here's some new albums that came out this week. I will give you the band, the album title, the label, and the genre. Ad Finium Omnia, Sect VA, on Purity through Fire Records for some death metal. Apogean, Waste Where Life Began, on the Artisan Era Records for some deathcore. Arise from Worms, a Bleeding Tree Hanging Self-Destruction on Church Road Records, incredible death metal band. Beware of Gods, upon who the Last Ascends 3, Behead the Oracle, self-release for some death metal. Devil Driver's new albums, Strike and Kill, Napalm Records. I've not really heard this record yet. The Devil Wears Nada, In Lust We Thrust, Aeonian Records for some rock music. Again, the album we mentioned earlier, Dies Gnostic, and Whispers, Make Your Names Easier. Transcending Obscurity Records, great label for black metal and death metal. Elor Belu, Graves of the Silent, playing on Ripple Music. We premiered that whole album this week on our website. Eva Under Fire, new album, Villainous, Better Noise Records for some metalcore and rock. Grim Legion, Harbingers of Death on Horror, Pain, Gore, Death Records for some death metal. Healer, Desolation EP on Flow Records. If These Trees Could Talk, The Hidden Hand, death metal from Metal Blade. Irata, great band I'm a huge fan of. Human on Small Stone recordings for some psychedelic rock. Incredible band. I have an interview coming out with them soon. Iron Slot, Metallic Torments, Gates of Hell Records for some death metal. My Chemical Romance, Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoy, Deluxe Edition, out now on Reprise Records. Necromonger, Emanation of the Dying Perceptions on Extreme Records for some death metal. No Cure, Is It Going to Get Dark on Sharp Tone Records, some punchy hardcore. The Plot in You, the Volume series on Fearless Records for some metalcore. Pilar Del Rio, Cyclic Law, Cavazis Records for some death metal. Rotting Christ, Chronos, re-release one of their best records on Season of Mist for some black and death metal. Slow Goat, Where the Wisest Feared to Tread, self-released for some stoner doom. Snorlax, great name for a Pokemon. Toxic Current on Avant-Garde Music for some death metal. Spread the Disease, The Darkness, The Dread, The Suffering on Hyperthral Records for some thrash. Trendkill, Apathy for the Dead for some more thrash. Let's see. Sweet, The Answer, re-release. That is the classic new wave of British heavy metal band Sweet that Metallica covered on Metalville Records. Wayland Storms, The Arsonist on Season of Mist, and the excerpts. I Think I Want to Go Home now on FLG Records. Some more extreme metal. And that is New Music Friday rundown. And we're almost done with the show. And it's time for the mailbag. And so this week's mailbag, I just got this in the mail today. And I just dropped it on the floor. Super cool. This is a brand new biography, Blow by Blow, the story of Jeff Beck. It's written and told to by Brad Talinsky and Chris Gill. If you know those guys, Brad Talinsky was the editor of both Guitar Player and Revolver, and Chris Gill was the editor of Guitar Player. And they both interviewed Jeff many times. They both did a book several years ago, about 3-4 years ago, Eruption, the story of Eddie Van Halen, based on interviews they did with Eddie, which I interviewed them about. And I'm really excited. I'm getting a copy of this. My buddy Jim is going to review this for Ghost Call. I'm going to interview Brad and Chris hopefully again. I'm really excited. Let me just read to you this little blurb. the definitive biography of one of rock's most innovative and enigmatic guitarists. And I will tell you that I loved Jeff Beck growing up. I was very into Clapton, like most people, for a long time. Then I realized what a cunt he is, and I really love Jeff Beck so much more these days, especially Blow by Blow, and There and Back, and records like that were really huge and important to me. Blow by Blow, the Jeff Beck story by acclaimed journalists Brad Talinsky and Chris Gill, is the first biography to fully capture the life, music, and mystery of the singular artist, drawing on more than 30 hours of original interviews with Beck, as well as extensive conversations with friends and collaborators, including Jimmy Page, Johnny Depp, Clive Davis, and many others. This book delivers the most complete and revealing portrait of Beck ever assembled. So I'm really excited. Here are some quotes on the back of the book, the pull quotes, and that usually help sell a book. Praise for Blow by Blow. This is the book Jeff deserves. It's honest, thoughtful, and true. Johnny Depp of Hollywood Vampires and former friend of Jeff Beck. Fine, fine work. Blow by Blow skillfully and artfully captures the story of one of the truly great heroes of the guitar, Jeff Beck. Words, words, words. Beck's story is the stuff of legends and is told masterfully in this high volume. Reverend Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. And then finally, Blow by Blow is a standing ovation to Jeff Beck and the legacy he deserves to leave behind. Narada Michael Walden, the great producer, composer, and drummer of Jeff Beck. So I'm really excited for this book, Blow by Blow. I believe it comes out in a few weeks, but officially our interview will probably run in August, the way it's looking. Hopefully not too much later than that. I have a wedding, unfortunately. Fortunately for the people who want the book review faster, but I'm really stoked. I'm really honored and humbled whenever I get a free record or a book or a product to try. I'm always, obviously as plugged in and as enthusiastic as I can possibly be, stoked and honored. So once again, somebody's watching on Twitch. I appreciate you for watching. I appreciate everybody that's been watching on everywhere else. Apparently TikTok is restricting me because I went on a rant and rambled, but whatever. Pretty good for an hour and 7-minute show at midnight Pacific time. That's our show. It's almost 2 a.m. Pacific. I gotta go to bed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here one more week. As I say every week at this juncture of the show, it's a tough time in the world. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Stay as metal as humanly possible. I will be back Wednesday night. One of my lights just went out. That's the cue to go. I'll be back Wednesday night, July 15th, with my midweek wrap up. It'll be a shorter show as my wedding is Friday and I don't have time any other time to do the show. But thanks for watching. Again, I'm lucky I get to do these here with you. If you're new here, like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on the replay, share with a friend. Please go check out our Butthole Surfers interview because it's getting killed by YouTube's algorithm because of the name Butthole Surfers, one of the most legendary bands of all time. And I was really humbled to get that interview. And Paul was really grateful and told me privately I was one of the better interviewers he's met. So it means a lot to me. I hope you go check it out. I want more people to see it. I'm out. Here's the credits. Peace.